I just need to check that with Alec.
What did you say, sorry?
Is it streaming, Alec?
Yeah, it's ready now. Yeah, Claire's doing that.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to today's meeting of Gedling Borough Council Planning Committee. I'm sorry to drag you inside when it's such a lovely afternoon or evening out there. But my name is Councillor John Truscott and I am the Chair of Planning. A webcasting notice reminds you that unlike previous meetings, this meeting is being live streamed. You know what that means? And so you must keep your cameras on at all times because you're being seen live by the general public. The recording will subsequently be available on YouTube and further details are available on page 2 of your agenda papers. So I'd like to introduce the officers from Gedling Borough Council who will be providing support during the course of this meeting. They're Mike Avery, Head of Development and Place, Kevin Cartwright, Principal Planning Officer, and Nigel Bryan, Principal Planning Officer. We have from our legal department, Sarah Fayez and Sarah Pregon, who are both solicitors. From Democratic Services, we have Alec Doubley, the Service Manager at Democratic Services, and Kate Goodall, Democratic Services Officer and Clerk to the committee. Will all members of the committee please ensure that their microphones are switched off or muted? I can see from the screen that quite a few of you have not done that. At all times when they're not required to speak, and only switched on, unmuted, when they're called on to speak, and they speak clearly and distinctly into their microphones. When a councillor is called upon to speak, will they please limit their contributions to 3 minutes or less? I can hear Alec in the background. And I can see Mr. C. Weaver, who is a guest speaker who shouldn't be here. I'll wait until Alec has cleared that up. Limit their contribution to 3 minutes or less in order that everyone gets a fair chance to air their views. Under apologies for absence and substitutions, the clerk of the committee will introduce all councillors who registered their attendance, as well as apologies and substitutions. At that point of the agenda, where I'd normally ask for a proposer and seconder, from the floor, to simplify things, I'll propose each item on the agenda as chair, and Councillor Paul Wilkinson was second as vice chair. This in no way an indication or approval or otherwise of any proposal or application by either of us, but merely a means of expediting the proceedings. Now, unlike previous meetings when we go through the list of councillors either in alphabetical order or more recently in random order, we are now going to go to sticking your hand up. And as I can't see everybody, Alec will make a note of people as they stick their hand up, and he will be calling them in order that they stick their hand up rather than myself. But in any case, they must observe the 3-minute time limit as well. And when it comes to the vote on the recommendation at the end of the item, it will similarly be conducted by sticking your hand up. So it's obviously important, both from the fact that the meeting's being streamed and from the new voting arrangements, that you must keep your screens on at all times. So I hope you've all received your colour supplements for the main agenda with plans, elevations and photos. And finally, there may be a short break after agenda item 5, depending on the progress of the meeting as to how we get on. So, first item on the agenda is apologies for absence and substitutions. Kate, would you like to take it away?
Yes, so if I can just take the register first, please, if that's okay. So, Councillor Truscott.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Present.
Councillor Barnes.
Present.
Councillor Barnfather.
Present.
Councillor David Ellis,
Present.
Councillor Rachel Ellis,
Present.
Councillor Elwood,
Present.
Councillor Hope,
Present.
Councillor Keneally,
Present.
Councillor Lawrence,
Present.
Councillor Miller, I don't think has been able to connect. Councillor Paling,
Present.
Councillor Parr,
Present.
Councillor Scroggy,
Present.
Councillor Smith,
Present.
Councillor Wheeler.
Present.
We've received apologies from Councillor Adams and Councillor Smith is a substitute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate. Second item is to approve the correct record of the minutes of the 2021, which you'll find on pages 7 to 18 of your agenda papers. And you'll note that there's a typo on page 4 of your agenda papers, which refers to the last meeting as being on the 13th of January. So I will move as chair and ask Councillor Paul Wilkinson to second as vice chair. Please indicate if you don't approve, otherwise we'll take them as read.
Seconded, Chair.
No, don't, is that,
Councillor Scroggy's got his hand up, John.
well, Councillor Scroggy, I'm sorry I can't see you, but I thought Alec was dealing with this. Where is Alec?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I wasn't expecting anyone to. Is there something inaccurate with the minutes, Councillor Scroggy?
No, Chair. It's just I wasn't present at the last planning meeting.
You're not listed as being present.
No, I just sorry, Councillor Wilkinson. I just want it noted. Obviously, I wouldn't vote for them. I would abstain.
Oh, okay, thanks for that, Councillor Scroggy. Right, let's move on. Planning Committee Protocol, which you'll find on pages 19 to 21, which I'm sure you will have all read and understood. Third item on the agenda is declarations of interest. I have none.
Sorry, Chair, I have my hand raised.
Councillor Chris Barnfather.
Sorry, Chair, I had my hand raised under item 2, the planning protocol. I'd like to raise a concern in respect of the application of the planning protocol for the item on the agenda tonight, which I think is item 4. If I may just explain to all the members of the committee, Mrs. Ireland, who is a resident of Linby Village and also the chair of the parish council, has represented her community in respect of the land allocated for this application. She has represented them at the Alliance for Strategy public hearings and spoke. She's represented them at the examination in public of the local plan and spoke. She has held meetings with her MP, attended by County Council officers representing the applicant and also Gedling Borough Council planning officers. And yet this evening, when she has asked for permission to address Planning Committee, she has been refused permission. I think that's a wrong decision. The chair has a discretion. I understand that he is relying upon item 16 of the protocol, which refers to speaking at planning committees restricted to applicants for planning permission, residents and residents associations who have made written comments to the council. Well, Mrs. Ireland has certainly made written comments on many occasions. She has applied to speak today. She represents a parish council. There is no greater residents association, dare I say, than a parish council for which she has duly been elected, but she has been refused permission to speak to committee tonight. I understand that this may be a very strict interpretation of the protocol. The chair has a discretion to waive that. I have asked him to waive it, and that waiver has been refused. I believe this is a democratic deficit. and it's actually muting the parish council from raising some issues that they wish to raise tonight. And I'd like it minuting that I object to the chair's decision in this case.
Thank you, Councillor Barnfather. Yes, I take full responsibility for this. As you so rightly say, that Mears Ireland has been very closely involved with the formulation of this application and has had more input into it than a lot of other people have. So, you know, this application as it results is part and parcel of the work that she has put into it. To say that a planning committee can also be equated with a residents association, I know is, you must know, is pretty tenuous. There are two entirely different organisations. And as an individual, she has not submitted any letters of representation on this application, which I think Kate has already pointed out to you. Furthermore, it has been, it's not a strict interpretation of anything at all. It has been, to my knowledge, granted I've only been chair of planning, I don't know, since about 2013 or so, that we have never had representatives of parish council as speakers here. And some time ago, when John Robinson was chief executive, he did float that idea. And can you please mute yourself if you're not speaking to the committee? And it was decided there and then that with the chief executive at the time, that representatives of the parish council would not speak at committee. They are already statutory consultees and they have their input through that, which you can read in the agenda papers. And therefore you talk about a democratic deficit. No, it would be a democratic deficit if they were allowed 2 bites of the cherry, which other people don't get. Anyway, if you wish to take this, you know, if you dispute my condition and you want to take it to a high authority, please do so. But I stand by what I say, and, you know, I believe I am correct.
I obviously recognise your right to make that decision, Chair, but I just believe that you're wrong. I also chair a planning committee at the County Council, and parish councils and district councils have an absolute right of representation before any county council planning committee, as of course does a local member, which you also declined to allow.
Sorry, I didn't catch the last of that. You seem to have muted.
I'm not aware that I'm muted. My final point was that, of course, local members also have an absolute right to appear before a planning committee at the county council, whereas here we do not allow elected members to represent their communities or their communities' views, which seems to me an absolute farce. And I would suggest it's about time we review this protocol.
Well, yes, certainly, but we're not going to do it in this present forum, are we?
Well, you are entitled to exercise the discretion, Chair, but you're obviously not prepared to do so.
Well, I've given my reasons, Councillor. I've given my reasons, and I think they're valid reasons. And I have, you know, as they say, confidence in my product. So let's continue, if that is okay.
With respect, I've had my hand up for a little while.
Okay, Councillor Hope.
Yeah, just for information to anybody out there who happens to be on a parish council, exactly the same thing happened to me. I tried to speak on an issue and was refused permission because although I had put in comments on behalf of the parish council, I hadn't done them personally. And in order to ensure that I could ever after take the opportunity to speak, from then on, I always submitted my comments twice. Once on behalf of the parish council and once on behalf of myself. That's the only way I could find of getting around it. well, apart from actually getting elected to Gedling Borough Council, which also gives me a voice. And I just advise parish councils to do that if they've got people who want to speak, because you've never seen, even on issues which are very, very important to your parish, you never seem to get the opportunity to put your points across to the planning committee as a representative. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hope. No doubt at some future point we will have an opportunity to debate this in greater detail. Has anybody else got anything to say about this before we move on to the substantive items on the agenda? Okay, agenda item 4, application number 2020/0050, land at Top Wighay Farm, Wighay Road, Linby, which you'll find on page.
Excuse me, Chair, declarations of interest, please.
Sorry?
You've not called for declarations of interest yet.
I called for declarations of interest at the start of the meeting.
Well, it's item 4, item 3 on the agenda, so I don't think so, Chair.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I apologise, Councillor Barnford. You're absolutely correct. In the fluster of the previous item, I've missed my place on the agenda. Third item on the agenda is declaration of interest. I've got none to declare on behalf of the committee.
Yes, Chair, if I may.
Councillor Barnfather.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I declare a non-pecuniary interest in the agenda item I've already alluded to, agenda item 4. As a county councillor, the applicant in this case is indeed Nottinghamshire County Council. It's a non-pecuniary interest, and I'm not part of the decision-making process at county in respect to this application. So I do not feel that I am precluded from speaking or voting on the item.
Thank you, Councillor. Agenda item 4, application number 2020/0050, land at Top Wighay Farm, Wighay Road, Linby, which you find on page 24 of your agenda papers. We have a speaker for this application, which is Andy Evans, Programme Director, Notts County Council. Is Mr. Evans with us?
I am, Chairman, yes.
Okay, sir, you have 3 minutes to have your say.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to speak in support of this planning application. When the Borough Council identified Top Wighay Farm as a strategic site allocation in the aligned core strategy, it did so in the knowledge that this was an opportunity to deliver a mixed-use, high-quality development in a sustainable location. The Council wants sustainable development. The applicant team has undertaken extensive community engagement and worked positively with our officers to refine these proposals in order to meet the Council's objectives. There are no objections from any of the statutory consultees, and only 5 letters of objection from local residents. The highway infrastructure needed to open the site is nearing completion, and this planning application is the next important step to bring forward development on this important strategic site. The applicant is committed to the early delivery of well-designed community facilities to provide a focus of civic pride. A new primary school will be built together with open space and local shops, which will be the focal point for the community. The applicant has agreed a substantial Section 106 package of approximately £8 million to effectively mitigate the impact of the development on the local infrastructure. In addition, the scheme will deliver an estimated civil receipt of £5.8 million. There are significant infrastructure costs associated with the development of this scale. Nonetheless, the scheme is still able to deliver 142 affordable dwellings. The new homes will help meet the council's housing requirements. The proposals also include a business park fronting onto Annesley Road. As a result, around 664 additional jobs will be created, and the development will provide significant economic benefits to the Gedling local economy. In summary, these mixed-use proposals will come forward as a part of a comprehensively planned development, which meets the requirements of yard development brief for the site. Your officers have provided a comprehensive report which addresses in detail all the material planning considerations, and on that basis it is recommended that planning permission should be granted. In order to deliver the Borough Council's ambitious plan aspirations, supporting this application tonight will move those aspirations forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Very succinct. And I'll now ask Nigel Bryan to further outline this application for us.
Thank you, Chair. By way of update, the Woodland Trust submitted a late objection to the application, and that they believe some of the trees within the application site will not be appropriately protected, and the root protection areas are not identified, and more trees on site should be retained. However, as a layout is not currently under consideration, these more detailed matters will be considered when reserve matters applications are submitted. Condition 23 of the outline permission also requires each phase of development to become accompanied by an arboricultural assessment. As a result, the objection is not considered to have an overbearing impact on the outline application. Furthermore, in respect of the safeguarded route for the Nottingham Express Transit, it has been confirmed the width of the route actually needs to be 12.5 metres and not 14. As a result, condition 10 would need to be amended to reflect this change. The recommendation in section 9 of the report also needs to be updated. It's not possible for the County Council to be a signatory of the section 106 legal agreement to receive monies required toward education and highways, as they are also the landowner. It is not possible for the County Council, if required, to enforce a legal agreement against themselves. As a result, all contributions would need to be made to Gedling Borough Council, and recommendation updated to reflect this. And for the avoidance of doubt, the application is direction of 805 dwellings, and not up to 805 dwellings, as referred to in parts of the committee report. This is on the understanding that the viability assessment has been predicated on the erection of this number of properties. The application is submitted an outline with only access committee, with the full application title at the top of page 24 of the committee report. There are numerous facets to the development proposed, with the key aspects being the erection of 805 dwellings, of which 17.64 will be affordable. This will be 99 affordable rent and 43 shared ownership. There will be employment uses of up to 49,500 square metres for uses for B1 and B8, which is offices and storage and distribution. A local centre comprising shops, offices, hot food takeaway and a creche. A 1.5 entry primary school is proposed, along with associated infrastructure, including open space. It will have 2 sports pitches, allotments, 3 equipped areas of play, informal green space and SUDS features. Future reserve matters applications will be guided by the overall master plan and parameters plan. This shows how the site will be developed and the scale of built form. The layout has been guided by constraints including a local wildlife site to the southern edge of the site, the need to provide adequate public open space and the requisite number of dwellings and employment opportunities. By way of policy background, the site is allocated within the aligned core strategy, as well as policy 71 of the LPD, identifying that part of the land is intended to be used for employment purposes. Furthermore, the council has adopted a Topwigay Farm Development Brief, SPD, to guide development. Therefore, there is strong policy support for the principle of development, which is deemed to comply with the development plan. And section 38.6 of the Town and Country Planning Act requires decisions to be made in accordance with the development plan, unless material planning considerations indicate otherwise. The application site is largely devoid of significant features, given that it is intensively farmed. There is a local wildlife site and a number of mature trees and hedgerows, although these are typically towards the periphery of the site. Actual physical works proposed as part of this application are limited to highway works, which include the installation of a signalised junction along Annesley Lane and works to a roundabout to facilitate access. These works are currently underway and nearing completion. Furthermore, pedestrian crossing is proposed along Wighay Road. The overall development will be guided by the master plan and future reserve matters applications. More detailed matters are covered in the committee report and include highway considerations, amenity and noise, heritage assets and archaeology, drainage and flood risk, landscaping impacts and ecology. One of the key considerations is contributions that are sought to make the development acceptable in planning terms. And to this end, there have been extensive negotiations over the viability of the scheme appended to this committee report. Based on what the scheme can return whilst still being viable, a total of 17.64 affordable dwellings or 142 properties will be secured. A full policy compliance scheme would be 30% or 241 dwellings. A contribution of 4.75 million towards the primary school and transfer of the land, with secondary provisions secured through SIL payments. Over 800,000 would be toward highway improvements, with £500,000 going toward bus provision and £150,000 each toward a toucan crossing and towards cycleways. £436,000 toward the Primary Care Trust for local surgeries, and a contribution of just shy of £1 million toward future maintenance of public open space. A local labour agreement as well as payment toward monitoring the legal agreement would also be secured. Taking all into account all matters in the round, it's considered the principle of development is supported and the site is allocated within the development plan. Significant contributions are sought to make the development acceptable in planning terms, and the layout will be guided by the master plan and controlled through pertinent conditions in the committee report. As a result, it is recommended the application be granted permission, subject to conditions as outlined on pages 44 to 51 of the committee report, with condition 10 updated to secure the safeguarded route to a width of 12.5 as opposed to 14, and the recommendation to exclude the County Council as a signatory to the legal agreement as outlined on page 43. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. So there we have the proposal, planning application 2020-050, outlining planning application for mixed-use development comprising 805 homes, land for employment purposes, etc. as listed. I will formally move the application as chair and ask Councillor Wilkinson to second, if you would, please.
Formally seconded, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now, we're going to open the debate by people, if they can raise their hands. I think Chris Barnfather's got his hand raised already. And Alec, if you've got the screen that shows everybody, you'll be able to see who raised their hands first.
It's just Councillor Barnfather so far, Chair.
Okay, carry on, Mr. Councillor Barnfather.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I appreciate this is a complex application before us today, and I've got 3 minutes, so I'll have to rush through this. This application's been on the blocks for many, many years, certainly since I've been a councillor in 2007. This land was effectively designated for development. I'm pleased to see the application before us today because from a community perspective, the uncertainty over the last few years has probably been more daunting or worrying than actually having the application here and the development commencing. I thank the officer for the paperwork that's before us, which I think is comprehensive. There are some concerns raised by the Parish Council, and in their absence, I will briefly raise sport and movements. That I appreciate that is addressed within the paperwork, and I know that the Parish Council have employed a traffic consultant on their own behalf who has met with officers, and indeed on the back of that traffic consultant's recommendations and concerns, the County Council have themselves employed a traffic consultant who has responded to those concerns. They are covered in the report as much as is possible within the confines of a limited report. I appreciate that also the Parish Council have some concerns in relation to employment land use, particularly around the allocation of B1 and B8. I'm pleased to see that there is no B2 allocations within the application. And I'm really looking for officers to confirm, I suppose, what I'm saying in the brief time I'm allowed to speak. But B1 and B8 on the commercial site will be determined at the time that that part of the development is completed, based on market conditions at that time, as to whether or not warehouse use, office use, or indeed any other type of use. There is nothing specific within the documentation that actually allocates a percentage of the employment use for either B1 or B8. Effectively, it leaves that open to land requirement, local availability of other potential sites, and indeed what the commercial market is doing at the time. In relation to optic broadband, I know this is a major concern for the community, that this development has broadband as part and parcel of the infrastructure that will support it. And I do believe, and again, I would just seek some confirmation, that the applicant has and is in discussions currently with broadband suppliers to make sure that the necessary infrastructure is in place, so that once this site is developed, should this application be successful this evening, we'll build in success. We will build in the necessary broadband infrastructure to make sure that those 805 residential homes and the school and any businesses on that site have all the necessary up-to-date IT infrastructure in place from day one, rather than it being a retrospective issue. Finally, a couple of good points, Chair, if I may. I welcome the Toucan crossing that is in this application on Wigay Road. I've been trying to get a Toucan crossing on that road now for some years, since the strata development of 38 homes adjacent to this application site were built. So I do welcome that, and indeed the widening of the footpath in that particular place. And what I do welcome about the application is that this creates a settlement in its own right. My concern as the local member has always been that we effectively created a housing estate on the edge of Hucknall that was no more than a bolt-on.
I can't hear you, Councillor Barnfather. You've frozen. Anybody else see that he's frozen?
Yeah, Chair, I think his internet may have dropped out, so we'll try and see if we can get him back.
Well, I think he's had his 3 minutes, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else wish to speak? David Ellis, thank you. Councillor Ellis, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I like Councillor Barnfather.
In general terms.
Sorry, Councillor Barnfather, your connection dropped there, so we've moved to somebody else. So we'll come back to you if that's okay.
Sure, I'm not sure at what point you lost me.
I'm quite happy to let Councillor Barnfather continue, if it helps.
I'm sorry, David. I don't know at what point that the rest of the committee lost me. I was in full flow.
You just said how much you welcomed the widening of the road and the provision of a footpath, I think.
And the Toucan crossing.
And the Toucan crossing already.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Well, very briefly to finish, I welcome the application, as I say, in general terms, and it does comply with our planning policy and indeed the supplementary planning document that is relative to this particular application site. I think this will be beneficial to the borough as a whole, and I just hope that as we move forward and we go from outline to reserve matters, that we are able to fully meet the expectations of the local existing community as well as the aspirational community to follow. Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much,
Councillor Barnfather. Councillor David Ellis, if you would like to take up your...
Thank you. I'd echo what Councillor Barnfather said. I know it's been on the County Council's agenda for a capital receipt for a long time, and so I'm pleased it's now been brought forward, even if it's only at the outline stage. Many of us will have had our ears bent by Ashfield councillors about the effect on local services. So I'm particularly pleased to see the amount of funding that's going on the infrastructure, as Mr. Bryant said. You know, he said the new primary school, highways and bus improvement, primary healthcare and open space. So it will make a significant difference, and it's down to the responsible agencies to make sure that the money is spent in the right part of the county to offset the damage to potential damage to the infrastructure. I do regret, as many of...
Is your camera on, Councillor Ellis?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do regret that the affordable housing provision isn't policy compliant, as many of us will do. And I appreciate that the County Council has a duty to maximise its capital receipts and probably doesn't give the same weight to affordable housing as we do. But I'm pleased that negotiations have increased the proportion of affordable housing from the initial offer of 10%, which is in the viability reports, to something nearer 18%. And I'm happy to support the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Hope.
Thank you, Chair. Very, very much a follow on from Councillor Ellis, but probably a different spin on it. Once again, we're getting this situation where, there should have been 241 affordable properties, and now we're down to 142. And this is from an initiative from the county council, and surely that if a county council is putting forward an initiative like this, they would want to see affordable houses being built. I would have thought. Seems logical to me. But once again, we get a viability survey which says no. It's if we have the full number of affordable houses, then it wouldn't be viable. So you can reduce it, and actually you don't have to pay. I mean, sometimes it's a case of, I don't want to build it, I'll pay you some money if you don't, if you allow me not to build it. In this case, it's saying, well, it's not viable, so we can't build that many. You take the best offer we can make. My problem is something must be wrong. Either we are setting the bar too high to allow developments to go ahead, or we are allowing people who want to develop sites to duck out from under, because we know that we need affordable housing. We know that we need the properties for joint mortgages and so on. But we're continually being asked to allow that to go by the wayside. So either our rules are wrong, or we're not applying them rigorously enough. What one or the other, because it's happening over and over and over again now. And when you look at one of those viability reports, you realise that quite a lot of money is being spent on it. So I do think we need to look at this, because otherwise we're never going to hit our target. That wonderful target that we got in scrutiny some time ago, target was 300 and the achievement was 3. This is a concern, and that was affordable housing. So I do think, rather than continually be faced with viability surveys which say, no, we can't build the affordable housing you want, we actually get it to a situation where we can plan ahead because we know what can be done and we don't have to give way on it. That's really my thing. I agree with everybody else. This has been coming for a long time, and it is about time it started moving forward. So I quite welcome the planning application, and I will support it. But once again, I find myself being very unhappy about the situation over affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hope. I think we all agree with that sentiment you just expressed about it's always the affordable housing that gets hit first when they decide that something isn't going to be viable. Anyway, is there any more hands up?
Yeah, we've got Councillor Wilkinson and then Councillor Barnes.
Okay, Councillor Wilkinson, do you want to take it away?
Thank you, Chair. And I absolutely would agree with what Councillor Hope was saying there. It's very, very frustrating when the affordable housing is what is cold, and and there's a viability study put in front of us to justify that. But I would also add to that and acknowledge that the council, Gedling, has commissioned its own viability study, which has vindicated the viability study produced by the by the applicants, and therefore reluctantly, I think we have to accept that is the case. But the frustration, is palpable, and I hope that that going forward we can persuade more developers to include more affordable housing than is happening at the moment. But yeah, I share your frustrations, Councillor Hope.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barnes. You're muted, Councillor Barnes. You're muted. You're still muted.
You're not now.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, you're.
I support the recommendation, but I'm just a bit concerned and worried about the fact that we don't seem to have no community activities in the village. Is there going to be a village hall? Is there going to be some leisure facilities? Is there going to be some social activities for because it's quite a big development and there will be a lot of people in that area. I would just hope that when we get down to the final development of it, we make some local activity in the village, because we want people to use less cars, and if they've got some activity in the village, they don't need to come out of the village. It's quite self-supporting. So I think we should make sure there is some leisure facilities in the village and some activity for out of hours socialising. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anybody else like to speak?
Nobody else, Chair, that I can see.
Okay, are you content that we move to the vote? Recommendation on page 43 of your agenda papers is to grant outline planning permission subject to the owner's entering into the planning obligations listed on that page. Now, will you raise your hands if you are in favour, please?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. That's carried. Unless anybody would like to record their abstention.
Votes against, please. And abstentions. Nope. Okay, that application has been approved. Thank you, everybody. So we move on to agenda item 5, which is application number 2020/0953, Carlin Le Willows Academy, Wood Lane, Gedling, which you'll find on page 104 of your agenda papers. We have got 2 speakers on this application. Firstly is Mr. Noel Lake as a resident objector. Is Mr. Lake with us?
I am indeed.
Hi there.
Hello.
Okay, Mr. Lake, the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to address the committee. My name is Noel Lake, and I'm a resident of the Beaumaris estate, situated off Burton Road, opposite the school playing field. Whilst the views expressed are my own, they are widely supported by local residents who have submitted over 50 objections. There are a number of grounds for concern, not least the environment. Digging up a playing field to build a car park is a very strange example to set, and I'm aware that Sports England have expressed their concern. But I want to focus on road safety. Burton Road is a very busy road. Notts County Council Highways Department noted in a report of 4th of June 2008 about the bus plug, and I quote, "Traffic congestion stretched along Burton Road past Gartner Wellows School on occasions to Burton Joyce." And it is still happening today. Many of us have observed the traffic doing exactly that at 3 p.m. just as the school closes. And it will not improve, as VIA noted in their transport assessment of the 23rd of September 2020, and again I quote, "Traffic is forecast to increase on Burton Road even after the opening of the GAR." So Burton Road is a very busy road and is forecast to get even busier. But the most important data of all is about road accidents. This was contained in the traffic assessment of the 19th of January 2021 on page 13. There was a map and diagram showing the area around Gartner Wellows School, which is Wood Lane, Shearing Hill, Coronation Walk, Florence Road, Stoke Lane, Beaumaris Drive, Linden Grove, Collick Loop Road and Burton Road, 9 roads in total. During the last 5 years, there have been 14 road accidents on those roads. 11 of those have happened on just one of those 9 roads, and that one road is Burton Road. Almost 80% of accidents in the area have happened on Burton Road. But even worse than that, 6 accidents, so almost half of them, have happened within 40 yards of where it is now proposed to put a car park. where cars will be entering and exiting onto a very busy road. And of course, at the very spot where many school children cross the road, and this number will only increase with the housing development at Rivendell and by Linden Grove. I shudder to think what might happen. When I look at the traffic volumes and the accident history, common sense tells me this is not a safe proposal, and I very much hope you agree with me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much indeed. God, I've lost my page. Okay, sorry about that. I just temporarily lost my place on the agenda papers. Thank you for that, Mr. Lake. I'd now like to ask Mr. Weaver, who is the head teacher, who will be speaking for the application. Mr. Weaver.
Okay, thank you for allowing me to speak and to support this application. As councillors will know, Calton the Willows Academy is a well-respected and high-performing school which has served the needs of generations of family in the local community. Always oversubscribed, in recent years we have increased our intake in order to meet local need and offer even more places to local children. However, the demand for secondary school places continues to increase, and without this expansion we can't simply grow anymore. As more housing developments are built in the area, the situation is only going to get worse. While preparing expansion plans, we've gone to great lengths to address any issues to ensure the success of the project and the safety of the children. We have consulted widely with the community stakeholders, receiving an overall positive response. Transport concerns were balanced, and the location and entrance of the building have been designed to meet the needs of our statutory consultees, Sports England and Highways, taking safety into account. The design includes safety features for Burton Road, including a raised zebra crossing, pedestrian island, and school road safety markings. VIA have undertaken a transport assessment to measure the impact of the project, and we have created a new school action plan, new school travel plan. As part of the process, we brought in an ecologist and a tree expert. Any trees lost will be replaced, and we've taken mitigating action to ensure loss of playing fields is reduced. In fact, we believe our new facilities could increase community participation in sport by around 25%. There's never been anything more important, I'm sure councillors will agree, than the education of the children. But it's universally acknowledged that the COVID pandemic has hit our children and hit them hard. A whole generation has lost learning and had their mental well-being impacted upon. Now, Calton Willows has built its reputation on combining academics with pastoral care. And with this exciting expansion proposal, we do have the chance to improve the education for even more children today and more in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll now ask Mike Avery to outline this application further for us.
Thank you, Chairman. The application site is located within the Nottinghamshire Greenbelt and forms part of the wider school site that comprises the Calton Willows Academy. Vehicular access is from Wood Lane, with a pedestrian access from Burton Road. The application comprises 4 distinct elements, the largest of which is a 2-storey teaching block that will house 20 classrooms, assembly hall, dining hall, and a new kitchen. The building will be a standalone structure sited between the 2 existing groups of classrooms and to the immediate south of the recently installed 3G pitch. The building will be sited at a lower level than the 3G sports pitch, to the bottom of a grass embankment. A new vehicular access is proposed to the site, along with a car park for 94 vehicles. To the front of the site will be a drop-off and pick-up zone, along with a turning area for vehicles. A number of earthworks are proposed to create a football pitch to replace the one being lost to the front of the site. 2 smaller alterations are proposed within the main built-up area of the site and include a modest extension to an existing classroom to incorporate a lift access, and a standalone canteen pod is proposed close to the existing car park, accessed off Wood Lane. 52 letters of objection and 13 letters of support have been received. These are summarised in the officer report. As I mentioned earlier, the site is located within the Greenbelt. With the exception of the replacement football pitch, having regard to the National Planning Policy Framework, the development is inappropriate within the Greenbelt. Inappropriate development is, by definition, harmful to the Greenbelt and should not be approved except in very special circumstances. Very special circumstances will not exist unless the potential harm to the Greenbelt by reason of its inappropriateness and any other harm resulting from the proposal is clearly outweighed by other considerations. The very special circumstances advanced is the overriding need and demand for additional education provision. Information submitted by the applicant and supported by the County Council demonstrates that the school is at capacity, and having regard to the number of additional dwellings that are likely to come forward at various development sites in the nearby vicinity over the coming years, there will be further increased demand for school places. Having regard to the landscape impact, the classroom block has been designed to reduce the visual impact through utilising the change in levels to minimise its overall mass and siting the building between the two main existing blocks of classrooms. In addition, it will be set back 90 metres from Burton Road and screened by the retained trees. It's therefore considered that the development would not have a significantly adverse impact upon the landscape character and visual amenity of the surrounding area. The heritage asset in the locality of the application site is Gedling House, a Grade 2 listed building. Whilst the application would result in significant built form in terms of the teaching block to be erected, views between the two would not be severely restricted, and it is not considered this aspect of the development would have a detrimental impact upon the setting of the listed building. However, the alterations to the playing field to create a sports pitch would have an adverse impact upon the building in that currently it is a grass bank whilst it is proposed to create a level playing area along with various associated earthworks. The impact would, however, be less than substantial, and weight is given to the wider public benefits to outweigh this harm. Alterations to the highway network as part of the application include a new vehicular access from Burton Road, a raised zebra crossing between the new access and Morris Drive, and improvements to a bus stop to the immediate west of the application site. Within the site, a car park for 94 vehicles with a drop-off and collection point is proposed. The Highways Authority have concluded that they have no objection to the proposal, subject to the imposition of appropriate conditions detailed in the report. In terms of the overall planning balance, the development is inappropriate within the Greenbelt and will result in the loss of school playing fields, which Sport England object to. The overriding need and demand for additional school places in this locality, which cannot be met elsewhere, is considered to be very special circumstances to allow inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. The development would also have highway safety benefits in that the access from Burton Road is considered to be a significant improvement to that currently utilised on Wood Lane. The increase in school places, along with highway improvements secured by the development, outweighs the potential harm to the openness of the Greenbelt by reason of its inappropriateness and other harm, which includes a reduction in sports pitch provision. Chairman, I recommend that permission is granted in accordance with the report.
Thank you very much. Right. We have the proposal, application number 2020/0953 for a two-storey teaching block, assembly hall, dining hall, Burton Road access, etc. I will formally move the application as chair and ask Councillor Wilkinson.
Formally seconded, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now we will open the debate. If you could indicate if you wish to speak, and Alec will see anybody that I don't see. We have Councillor Smith wishes to speak.
Sorry, Chair. I think Councillor Lawrence might have been first. It might be stuck on your screen.
Councillor Lawrence on my screen.
Okay.
Okay, well, Councillor Lawrence then. Sorry, Councillor Smith.
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute. This, I think, has been the worst video council meeting that I've attended. There seems to be an awful lot of buffering and people dropping in and out. So I hope that you can hear me. I'm going to support this application wholeheartedly. Of course, it may not have been necessary if the county council hadn't already closed one of the schools in Gedling. But however, I think that the very special circumstances that have been outlined in the report and by Mr. Avery leave us no way to object to this, especially as the Highways Authority is happy with their particular consultation. So I don't think there's much more to say other than it is needed, which has already been said, and I'll just reiterate, I agree wholeheartedly with the very special circumstances. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Smith.
Sorry, Chair. I think your order might be different to ours, so it's Councillor Hope next.
Okay, I'll let you take the order.
Thank you. It's Councillor Hope next.
If you can see everybody.
That's very good of you, Chair. Thank you. I just got a couple of questions, really. I tend to agree the argument for extension of Gartner Willows Academy is a very strong argument. But if this all went ahead and it was finished, firstly, would the Wood Lane entrance still be available? That's the first question. And the second one is, when you talk about a drop-off point, 94 spaces in the car park and a drop-off point, are you saying that parents will be able to drive in, drop their children off and drive out again? Or are you just saying, no, that's only going to be for buses? They're the two questions I'd like to put, and then I'll make a comment.
Mike?
Thank you, Chairman. So in relation to the first question concerning Wood Lane, that entrance would still be available. So it would be completely unreasonable to require that entrance, which serves existing car parking spaces and is used to access the site, to be closed off. So that entrance would still be in situ, and this planning application doesn't propose to completely close that entrance. In relation to the drop-off, there's one entrance to the site which is proposed from Burton Road, and that takes the actual drop-off facility into the site, so away from the existing main road and also the residential properties to the south. So the idea is that forms a kind of a loop going into the site, as indicated on the plan, which is on the screen now.
Yeah, my point was, is this intended for parents bringing their children to school in a car, or is it going to be solely for children who arrive on a bus? That was the question.
In answer to your question, I think this is available for vehicular traffic. I think unless the school were to implement some specific restrictions, it will be difficult to preclude the use of that for parents dropping off at the site. But what it does provide is it provides a facility to remove cars from Burton Road, to remove any kind of indiscriminate car parking actually on that Burton Road frontage. Mr. Bryan, I know you've been been liaising with the Highways Authority. Do you have any further comments to add to address the question that's been raised by Councillor Hope?
No, anyway, just clarify that it would, because if Kevin could just put the map back up, but I think there was 6 kind of drop-off spaces. So in effect, people would come in, drive around, and then they'd be able to pull into these 6 drop-off spaces where they could, in effect, basically park in there and quickly drop the kids off and then carry on. So in short, it can be accessed by parents, and then they'll then be able to leave. So yes, it can be accessed by cars dropping off children. Yes.
Right, thank you for that. Well, then my observations are: one, I looked at the pictures about the access from Wood Lane, and it looks quite horrific. If people are driving in and out of exactly the same access, then essentially, I think on a morning that drop-off point, if it's got 6 spaces for the numbers of children you're talking about, is going to get filled fairly quickly. So you're going to have cars piling up on Burton Road trying to get in, which I think is something of a highways risk. And then you're going to have 2 effects. One is a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, to hell with Burton Road, it isn't working. We'll go back to using Wood Lane." So you're going to have all the parking on the road problems and the blocking of the road problems at Wood Lane, and you are going to get cars parked along Burton Road waiting to get into the drop-off point. It seems to me that if you've got one in and one out, then it probably would move fairly smoothly. But I mean, all you need is somebody coming out who wants to turn right, and your drop-off point is totally blocked immediately. I mean, is there an intention to have a one-way system there? I don't really know, but it looked to me as if, whilst I support what's happening, that this plan is not going to solve the problems that you've got, and you might end up with double trouble, because I know a lot of people who are used to going to Wood Lane would simply go back to using that, and so you've then got a 2-fold problem rather than a 1-fold problem. I mean, I'm sure there's a way around it, but I'm very wary of circular tracks with drop-off points that have got the same entrance and exit. That never seems to me a good idea. Far better to have one in, one out. But that's my view. Thank you.
Mr. Cartwright, could you please display the plan again? I think it will be helpful for members to actually fully understand how this arrangement would work in practice. Could we zoom in, please, on the actual access and egress, and also on the parking arrangement? So what we can see on there is that there's an access into the site. It will take the vehicles round in a loop. There are car parking spaces, and there's also an egress as well. This arrangement has been thoroughly considered by the Highways Authority. So this would have been designed in consultation with the County Council as the Highways Authority, and they raised no objection to this. So the highway engineers have looked at it, and in their view, it is fit for purpose. The Highways Authority have had every opportunity to request amendments to this. They've not sought any amendments to this because the highway engineers are content that this arrangement is acceptable for the development that it serves.
Thank you very much for that.
Can I just one quick comeback? I accept.
Can you make it quick?
I'm sure you're right, but this is the system that's used in Calverton at the Veolia tip, and you go in one side and out the other, and it works perfectly well, and yet we are having continual complaints now because we've got traffic parked all the way along Hollingwood Lane, and people who want to use that road to get to their house are stuck in this queue of traffic taking stuff to the tip. Now that is a real situation that exists now, and looking at your plans, you're going to get that virtually every morning. You know that you're talking about a lot of cars and a lot of children, or you seem to be, because it's what is it? 20 classrooms. I mean that must be getting on for 500 or more children, all coming in cars. Well, not all, but most. I'll leave you with it. I'm not convinced it's the absolute best solution.
If I could just come back, Councillor Hope, in relation to the tip at Calverton that you referred to, I think the way in which that is used is very different to a school drop-off. Certainly at the tip, there's significant demand for that service at the current time. But when motorists are driving into the tip site, there's a significant stay that people are unloading their vehicles to sort into the various skips to recycle waste on the site. So, you know, people, there's a long stay there of possibly 10, 15 minutes, possibly longer. Whereas with these drop-offs, parents are dropping off children, it's very, very quick. And I think it's because the length of stay at the tip is fairly significant. That's possibly what's creating these tailbacks, coupled with the pent-up in demand at the current time. So I acknowledge what you're saying, but I don't think this is directly comparable with the tip that you're referring to at Calverton.
Okay, can we please move on? Does anybody, Alec, can you check and see if anybody else wishes to speak?
Yeah, Councillor Paling and then Councillor Barnes.
Thank you. I wanted to make many of the points that Councillor Hope has just made. So I think the argument has been raised sufficiently. I did want to support the expansion of the school. I was hoping we might be able to relocate the access somewhat. It can't go back up Wood Lane, I know that, because there's already too much traffic there. So I do know we have a problem, but I do think the residents are in the Beaumaris Drive area are going to be considerably inconvenienced when it's in operation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Alec, to speak?
Yeah, it was Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what's the most concern to me is Wood Lane, but I think what the new arrangement is going to make it better. It's going to stop people using Wood Lane, because when you're dropping kids off at school, you're not there for 3/4 of an hour. You're only there for 10 minutes. And if you're topping them up or you're going to work, you haven't got time to wait a long time in that parking space. You're going to drop the children off and dash off to work. So I think that's an improvement. I think the old episode of the old planning application, I just worry about losing some playing fields. But on the whole, I think it's going to be a better development. But time will tell. I just hope that people stop using cars going to school so kids can go walk to school in safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else, Alec?
Okay, yeah, Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to put on record that I welcome the extra school places that this proposal will provide. It's a fantastic school, Carlton Willows is. It's in my district patch, so of course I'm going to say that, but it is in the top 20 of the country, and we should look to give our students the best education we can. But there has been 52 letters of objections, most of them from my residents in Burton Joyce, Stoke Bardolph and Gedling, and I'm going to add my name to them. First of all, I've got massive highway concerns. The report that's been put out on the accident report between 2015 and 2019 shows that there's been 14 accidents around the school site. Well, 11 of those are on the Burton Road and 6 of them are next to the junction of where this new entrances proposed to go. And I think that is a grave concern for our students and also residents coming out of there. So I want to add my thoughts to that. The drop-off and collection point is proposed and it sounds good on paper. There's one at Arnold Hill Academy and it's not used, it is used. You can fit about 20 cars in there. Then there's queues all along Arnold Lane, Gedling Road, the Arrow Pub car park. Well, in this instance, the Arrow Pub car park will become the Beaumaris Estate and Burton Pastures, and it will just throw all the traffic issues on there. The zebra crossing that's included in this application is to reduce improve road safety for students because it will slow traffic down and stop them. But if you drive down there today at 3 o'clock or at 5 o'clock, as I do every day, to and from the office, it takes you 20 minutes from Nottingham Road to get to Shearing Hill already, and there's already accidents. We've all been sent video clips of 2 students just last week that were nearly knocked over. So a zebra crossing coming in there, which I welcome, however, doesn't impact the traffic that's already there. It's already a nightmare to get out through there, and this new entrance will add to that. And I think that isn't a good thing. We need to re-look at where the entrance goes because of that. As I say, I welcome the fact that it also says that no part of the development can be permitted under the conditions until the drop-off and pick-up area is introduced and in operation. But again, as I've just said, that won't help the people of Beaumaris. There's already a massive issue there. I've also got an issue with Greenbelt Development. The very special circumstances that have been outlined to us this evening says that it overrides the Greenbelt because of the need and demand for additional education provision. I question that because as part of the Greenbelt Development, this proposal introduces a car park which will go over playing fields. I support the very special circumstances in increasing the education provision. That's fine. However, we don't need to put a car park and an entrance on the Greenbelt. We can put that somewhere else. And I revert back to the highways issue. If we put the car park and the entrance on Burton Road, not enough parents can use the car park. If you're rushing to work like I am often at 5 to 9 and you want to chuck your kids out, you're going to chuck them out on Beaumaris Drive, Linden Grove and around there and increase the traffic there and the risk there. So I think the school places is a good thing. However, there's huge highways issues. And if we vote for this tonight, I fear that we're voting to add to an already massive traffic issue on Burton Road and Burton Pastures, and also voting to risk the children's life. And I won't be doing that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Alec.
Councillor Rachel Ellis.
Thank you. The concerns with regard to traffic have already been well aired. I am concerned that the reason that we have this application and the reason we have these special circumstances is because of the short-sighted nature of the closure of another local secondary school. And if that school had not been closed, we wouldn't have this creation of a super secondary school. We would have had the school places anyway. The other matter I just wanted to raise as a question, we're talking about parents dropping off children, and I know that's often convenient for parents on the way to work or whatever. But what consideration has been given to supporting and enabling the young people to cycle to school? So that's a question for clarification, please.
Would anybody like to answer that, Mike?
Nigel, again, I would ask, in terms of the specific deliberations that you've had with the Highways Authority and the applicant, are you able to clarify to what extent cycling provision has been considered?
They've submitted an updated travel plan which identifies, you know, how they're going to encourage, you know, bus use and cycle use, etc. I couldn't be more specific than that, but they have updated it to reflect the number of children that will be going there. So it will be encouraged in terms of cycling provision, but I couldn't really be specific in terms of the actual detail of the report, I'm afraid.
Alec?
So it's Councillor Elwood next.
Thank you, Chair. Clearly, there is a need for additional school places, which other members have referred to. Other members have also referred to the almost the elephant in the room with regard to the Sherwood Academy site, which is an educational site at the moment. On page 106, the County Council Education refers to, in a sentence, there is no capacity on other school sites within the school place planning area. But obviously that excludes the 8.7 hectares of educational land on the Sherwood Academy site. But disappointing that they can't acknowledge that fact in their submission to the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Alec?
Councillor David Ellis.
Thank you, Chair. It's essential that infrastructure goes hand in hand with development. And obviously, we know that education is one of the most important elements of infrastructure, so this is to be welcomed. Like Councillor Elwood, I was intrigued by paragraph 4.3, where it says the County Council identified a growing insufficiency of secondary school places. But it's only a couple of years ago when Vernon Coker and members of this council were raising the issue with the County Council about the inadequacy of places and the danger of closing the Gedling school site. And the Conservative chair of the Children and People Committee told them they were talking rubbish. Now they recognise that we need at least 750 new places, so I suppose we have to welcome the U-turn from the Conservatives there. It's also ironic that the Conservative councils locally have a record of raising fears of building on the Greenbelt. Yet here we have the Conservative administration at County Hall proposing to build on the Greenbelt. Now, I followed Mr. Avery's arguments very closely, and I'm satisfied that on balance that there are very special circumstances which would allow this development to grow. So the main issue is obviously the access and the effects on the roads off Burton Road. Now, I've carefully read the transport assessment and the various documents, and VIA points out that the GAR will reduce traffic on the Burton Road corridor, that the central refuge will be changed to a raised zebra crossing, and that the suggestion that many of the new students will come from Linden Grove and Teal Close developments, so they should be able to walk or cycle. And of course, we've already heard that the Wood Lane itself is what you might call it horrific, and so it's definitely something he's doing with it. We would have great difficulty, I think, since we've got a highways department supporting these proposals. We'd have great difficulty in refusing planning permission, and I think a lot of the suggestions that we've heard tonight are speculative. Things that might happen could cause problems. Yeah. So I would hope at least that the Highways Authority will carefully monitor the effect of the various changes in the area, including the GAR and the new access on Burton Road, and will manage and make any changes that are necessary. But I'm happy to support the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I agree with you there that there's been a lot of speculation on what might or might not happen in the future. Alec, is anyone else indicating?
Can't see anyone at the moment, Chair, unless anyone wants to dive in now. I think that's everyone.
Okay, are you content that we move to the vote?
Excuse me, Chair, can I propose a named vote, please?
Yes, all right by me.
Thank you. Need to have a seconder for that, Chair.
Councillor Wilkinson, will you second that? Councillor Wilkinson's gone.
No, I'm here, Chair.
Oh.
I'm not sure that was the purpose of me formally seconding.
Okay, anybody else second? I mean, I'm quite proud of the way I vote, so you know, I don't mind it being recorded. Somebody else.
If you want to be the second, Councillor Truscott, we can proceed to a name vote in that case. Otherwise, we do need a seconder to have a name vote.
Oh, I see. Councillor Smith is the proposer. I'll be the seconder then.
Thanks, Chair.
I think we can go to a name vote, Kate, now.
Yep, okay, thank you. So, Councillor Barnes?
I think you're on mute, Councillor Barnes. We can't hear you. Shall we come back to you at the end, Councillor Barnes? Well, just while he gets himself. Oh, he's for.
I've done it. I'm just.
Councillor Barnfather?
For.
Councillor David Ellis?
For.
Councillor Rachel Ellis?
For.
Councillor Elwood?
For.
Councillor Hope?
For.
Councillor Keneally?
For.
Councillor Lawrence?
For.
Councillor Paling?
For. Sorry, Chair. For.
Councillor Parr?
For.
Councillor Scroggy?
For.
Councillor Wheeler?
For.
Councillor Wilkinson?
For.
Councillor Smith?
Against.
Councillor Truscott?
For.
Thank you, Chair. That was carried. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, we did say that we may or may not have a comfort break after agenda item 5. Is anybody in desperate need of a comfort break before we carry on with the agenda, or shall we just plough on? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Crack on, Chair.
Okay, we'll crack on. Agenda item 6, application number 2020-0954, the Phoenix, Shelford Road, Gedling, which you'll find on page 122 of your agenda papers. We have a speaker against this application, which is Joanne Isles as a resident objector.
I'm going to read this statement out on behalf of Joanne Isles.
Okay.
Okay, so this is my written statement in relation to Plan 2020-0954, the Phoenix Shelford Road. Trees. I request the established trees and bushes behind and at the side of the existing building are left in place. They provide drainage for Beckett Court. The road has no drain, so the trees help draw the water away. The trees and bushes will help provide a natural privacy barrier from the block of flats being built, which will be appreciated by Beckett Court and the new residents of the block of flats. The trees also are a home and feeding resource for nesting birds. I just ask that the wall is left in place, and so is the nature behind it. Traffic and parking. I ask how building a block of 26 flats and only providing 21 car spots is a sensible idea. The average household has 1.2 cars in the UK, so where will the extra cars go? I suggest the block of flats is kept at 2 stories. This will keep the building in height with the houses around it and will also reduce the number of flats, so the ratio of car to flats will be more balanced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I now ask for the applicant, Mr. Alan Forsyth, to speak. Is he with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this. So as we know, the Phoenix pub, unfortunately, over time became quite run down. Various different owners struggled to make it a success. Unfortunately, in its latter years, it became considered quite an undesirable pub, which locals on the whole avoided, with antisocial behaviour, including alleged drug taking, and in May 2019, 3 people being stabbed outside, as reported in the Nottingham Post at the time. Indeed, the article in the Nottingham Post highlights residents who lived in the area said they rarely used the pub because of this antisocial behaviour. So it's clearly not working as a pub. We believe with the location and the demand for housing that this modern apartment block designed by our architectural team will be a welcome addition locally. With the excellent transport links, every 8 minutes the numbers 44 and 45 bus stop right on the doorstep. This will ensure people are not reliant on cars to get into Nottingham city centre, and local transport will be used. We looked at the potential of converting the existing building, but it's far better use of space, we believe, to get a new build development on the site, which will be energy efficient and come with a 10-year new build warranty. With a lift in the building, modern kitchens and bathrooms, this modern energy efficient building will be suitable for young professionals, plus downsizers and retirees. And we've already had a lot of inquiries from those looking to live in the area, but they only require a 1 and 2 bed apartment. We would aim to start on site immediately, assuming planning was approved, ensuring locals could be in their new homes by summer 2022. The development will create around 50 jobs during the construction phase, all local, well-paid jobs, and materials will be sourced locally. We believe with the quality of the development we have planned, plus losing an undesirable pub that was leading to antisocial behaviour, this would be a welcome addition to Shelford Road and the surrounding areas. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll now ask Nigel Bryant to further outline this application for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. The application is for the demolition of the existing public house and erection of a 3-storey block of flats, incorporating 26 units and 21 parking spaces. The building will be relatively contemporary in design, having a flat roof and recessed second floor with a mixture of materials including brick and render. The applicant has also indicated that a red brick rather than a buff brick could be utilised for the building, which could be secured via condition if necessary. As members will note, there's been a number of letters of objection to the application who have expressed concerns about the development, primarily over impacts on the character of the area and residential amenity. However, whilst the built form is not a conventional red brick pitch roof building, the design of the flats are considered to be create a degree of visual diversity within the area on a prominent corner location. Furthermore, the site being lower than the immediate neighbouring properties, it is not considered that there will be any overlooking or overbearing impacts. Parking for the site will be policy compliant in that 21 unallocated spaces will be provided, along with an internal cycle store. The Highway Authority have not raised objection to the application, and the site is well served by local buses. With the application being a major, contributions would be required for a full policy compliant scheme. In this instance, that would be affordable housing, education and primary care trust. However, a viability assessment has been submitted in support of the application and identifies the scheme would not be viable if the contributions are sought. The viability assessment has been appraised by an independent party who agrees the scheme would not go ahead if contributions are required. The viability reports are appended to this committee agenda. However, the independent assessor has identified that should the development not commence in a timely manner, a view of the scheme would need to be undertaken to see if the circumstances change and contributions could be made. Therefore, if development is not above the ground level within a year from the issuing of the decision, the viability appraisal would need to be reassessed to determine if the scheme could return some affordable housing, education or health contributions. This is something that could be secured via a legal agreement. Having regard to the above, it's considered that the proposed development would respect the character of the area and not have a detrimental impact on residential amenity or highway safety. Subject to conditions as outlined on pages 132 to 135 of the committee report, the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the proposal is application number 2020/0954 for demolition of the existing public house and construction of a 3-storey block of 26 flats. I'll formally move the application as chair. I'll ask Councillor.
Formally seconded, Chair.
Thank you very much. And now we'll open the debate. And Alec, could you look out for anybody who wants to speak?
Yeah, so we've got Councillor Lawrence, Councillor Paling so far.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence, would you like to start?
Thank you, Chair. I will support this, and I'm pleased to hear that it could be constructed in red brick, because I think on the photographs of the existing plans, it doesn't look as if it fits in with the rest of the area. It's a great disappointment, of course, that again we see affordable housing being not viable. I think that government should change the viability. I don't know why anybody can build such a large building and make it not viable to contribute to the various authorities that need that. However, we've seen the viability assessment, and so I think we've got no choice but to support this. I think I, along with Councillor Creamer, were probably two of the last councillors to actually go in there, which was during the 2019 Borough Council election campaign. And there were a few dodgy characters about outside, and also I think that Councillor Creamer and I were the only ones inside, and they kept the power open for us to actually have a pint in there. However, I don't think it'll be missed. It's already been pointed out of the unsalubrious activities that took place at it. As I say, I will be supporting this.
Thank you for your personal recollections, Councillor Lawrence. Anybody else wish to speak germane to the application?
It's Councillor Paling next.
Thank you. I have similar concerns to Councillor Lawrence. I welcome the actual development, but I did wonder if the building could fit in better with the surrounding area. I don't know, with some facing brick that made it blend in better. And I actually would like to check with you, Mike Avery, if you don't mind. My understanding of 7.21, if the development has begun, then the 106 agreement is fine. What if the building stalls when it is commenced but not complete? Mr. Forsyth said he hoped people would be in by summer 22, which I think is an excellent timescale, and I do hope you can keep to that. But can we review the market prices if the development is stalled for whatever reason?
The advice we had from the viability assessor was that, you know, really it should be getting above ground level, that once it has got above ground level, then there's a realistic prospect that the site will progress to completion. So we wouldn't normally require it to be upon occupation. You know, the advice is to do it upon ground level, because then, you know, it's quite rare that a building would kind of get half erected and then cease. So that's the advice we've got from the viability assessor, and hence the recommendation on paragraph 7.21.
Thank you. I wonder if maybe the developers could consider blending the building in more, because I do actually think it would be a good development. Everything internally looks fine. So thank you very much for that.
Alec?
Yeah, so it's Councillor Elwood next.
Thank you, Chair. Residential use is clearly a very appropriate use for this site, but I do have major concerns about the application itself, unfortunately. I mean, the two issues I've got are overbearing and overlooking. It's a 3-storey building, which would be acceptable in a town centre or even in a local shopping centre, but it looks incongruous in the, to my mind, in a residential suburban setting. It just looks too big. The current building is quite set back from the road. There is quite a gap between the pub and the Wilson Avenue and Shelford Road. This application brings the building much closer to the roads, and it sort of looms across on the streetscape. It just seems to be too far in front, and that at least to my mind anyway. The other issue is overlooking. Third story is the problem really, and I accept that it's a lower site than the other buildings, and it's in the sort of lowest point of that area, which does help a little bit. But the third story flats have got balconies, and I think that in itself is going to create an overlooking risk, particularly for the houses that are opposite on the other side of Shelford Road. Although Shelford Road is a bus route, it is actually quite a narrow road, so there isn't that much of a distance between the balconies and the bedroom windows on the other side of the road. Certainly, I would suggest within shouting distance of each other. The report refers to the likelihood that the proposed flats are not likely to be occupied by families, which I can accept that. But that in itself is going to create problems, because you're really looking at a younger age range who will be using these flats, and they're going to have a slightly different lifestyle to the older residents and the family residents in the nearby area. And the balconies, I think, is going to be an issue with noise, particularly in the evenings, on a nice summer's day. Noise from the balconies, and in the evenings noise travels further because of the general lack of background noise. So that's my main concern, the balconies. I mean, they look nice in a hotel. I've been to one or two hotels where you have those sort of balconies, and they do look nice. But in a hotel, if somebody's making lots of noise and playing up, at least you've got somebody to complain to. But if you've got balconies in a set of independent flats, you've got nobody to complain to apart from phoning the police or the neighbourhood warden. So for those reasons, the overbearing nature and the overlooking issue, I'm afraid I won't be able to support this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more, Alec?
Yeah, Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As a member of Camera, it is very painful to see another pub go completely. However, as has been pointed out by others, it's been empty for 2 years and has been struggling badly for some time prior to that, and there's no realistic prospect of it reopening as a pub, and certainly not as a successful pub. So reluctantly, I have to accept that it will disappear as pub and another pub has gone. I share the concerns about affordable housing, but there is an independently verified viability study in respect to that. So again, we have to accept that. So I think I am minded to vote in favour of this application. Thank you.
Okay, Alec, any more?
Can't see anyone with their virtual hand up. I don't know if there's anybody else.
I'll put my virtual
Can't see
hand up
anybody.
if everybody else has finished. As also, following on from what Councillor Wilkinson says, also as a member of CAMRA, I fully concur that no one likes to lose their local pub, but it's a fact of life that more and more are disappearing from our urban areas, and COVID will only serve to accelerate that process. And it's especially saddening to lose a pub located in such a prominent corner location, which had served as something of a community hub in its time, although I realise that with use or with lack of use, this has eroded its status. But it did at one time occupy a strong place in the culture of the community. And knowing it has to go is one thing, but hoping it will be replaced by something, even if it's just a block of flats, one can hope for something that at least tries to complement the urban vernacular of red brick and tiles which surround it. Unfortunately, what we have here at this focal point of the streetscape is a boring epitome of the grey plague that is sweeping like a disease over our traditional urban street scene of modest red brick houses with tiled roofs and neat gardens. Usually one expects the applicant's design and access statement to wax lyrical about the virtues of grey unimaginative lump, presented as being a design of good quality, adding visual diversity and enhancing the character of the area, which of course it does not. The other aspect of this loss to the community is the historical and cultural one to me. Phoenix is a name long associated with this area, and this pub was built near the site of Phoenix Farm, which was owned by Jane Neave, who was an aunt of J.R.R. Tolkien, who often stayed there and indeed wrote part of The Lord of the Rings while staying there. I'm not saying he was in the pub, but he was in the farm where before the pub was actually built. And I find that Tolkien's association with Gedling has been much underplayed, in that he used to live in Gedling village for a time, and the topography of the Shire, which features prominently in The Lord of the Rings, is allegedly taken from Lamley Dumbles. But this is yet another element of our local connection to the great man slipping into obscurity without a whimper. After having said all that and had a moan, one has to bow to the inevitability of progress, and so with a somewhat heavy heart, I will also vote to approve this application. Thank you very much. Right, are we content to move to the vote? What we're looking at, the proposal, the recommendation is on page 131 of your agenda papers to grant planning permission subject to the owner entering into section 106 planning obligations listed, and people will, if Alec will check and see which way people will vote for me, please, because I can't see everybody.
So yeah, anyone in favour then, if you'd like to. Thank you.
And again.
Thank you.
And abstentions.
Thanks, Chair. That's carried.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to agenda item 7, enforcement reference 0046/2020. Land to the west of 175 Mansfield Road, Papplewood, breach of planning control. change of use from equine or agricultural use to a use involving the repair and storage of motor vehicles and unauthorised development, which you'll find on page 208 of your agenda papers. I'll ask Mike Avery to give us the background to this enforcement reference, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Planning permission was granted for an L-shaped stable block of 4 stables and a tack room. In December 2017, it was noted that the stables had been constructed in accordance with the approved dimensions and with the approved materials, but they had been built to a higher standard than would usually be expected for stables, including a cavity wall and insulation and domestic style windows and doors. There was also an indication in the brickwork and gaps in the internal blockwork that additional windows will be inserted in the future. It was requested that the owner submitted a new planning application to retain the stables, showing the fenestration and door details as built, and for the retention of the boundary walls and steel gates. This application was submitted and subsequently refused. More recently, a 3-sided wooden structure, which has the appearance of a double domestic garage, has been erected on the land opposite and facing the approved stable building, and there is also a dividing wall measuring 1.5 metres high on the site. In addition, floodlights and CCTV security cameras have been erected around the site on tall poles. Outside of the site, along the private road and in front of the boundary walls of the site, an area of land has been turfed and a 1.8 metre high stack and 2 1.8 metre high statues have been placed on the land. 2 lanterns have been positioned on top of the gate pillars, and so the pillars and lanterns exceed 2 metres in height, and the railings have been erected on top of the front boundary wall. The hard standing area of the site is now being used to store a large number of motor vehicles and car parts, and there is evidence that car repairs being undertaken on the site. The stable building is still not substantially completed, but is being used for the storage of car parts. Recovery vehicles have also been seen carrying broken down vehicles to the site. The unauthorised building and use is considered inappropriate in a countryside location and within the green belt. No very special circumstances have been provided for the development or the change of use of the site, and so the very special circumstances necessary to justify the development do not exist in this case. In addition, taking account of the location and scale of the unauthorised use, it is considered that there would be an unacceptable adverse impact upon the residential amenities enjoyed by the occupiers of nearby residential properties. Chairman, I recommend that enforcement action is taken in accordance with the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. So we have breach of planning control ref 0046/2020, change of use of land and unauthorised development. I'll formally move this item. I'll ask Councillor Wilkinson to second, please.
Formally seconded.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to speak on this? You're content that we move straight to the vote? Okay. Alex, will you take the vote for me, please?
Yeah, so it's proposed and seconded to take enforcement action. So in favour of that, would you please show? Thank you. I think that's everyone, Chair. We don't need
unanimous.
to.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. The results of the votes is that enforcement actions as listed will be approved. Agenda item 8. Reports the Planning Committee, TPO 000135 Hawthorne Nursing Home without modification. The text of 4 groups of trees. I'll formally move this item as chair. Ask Councillor Wilkinson to second.
Formally seconded.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak on this? Okay, you're happy that we move straight to the vote to confirm The recommendation is on page 219 to confirm the tree preservation order. Alec, would you like to take the vote? All those in favour?
All those in favour, please. Thank you. Yeah, that's again unanimous, Chair.
Okay, we go on to agenda item 9, which is another TPO at Hawthorne Primary School. I'll formally move this item as chair.
Formally seconded.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to speak? Nope. Okay, you're content that we move straight to the vote. The recommendation is to confirm tree preservation order number 000136. All those in favour, please show.
That's everyone again, Chair.
That is unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. So that's agenda item 10, which is report to the Planning Committee, which is application 2019-118, land east of Kighill Lane, where we refused an application. It was appealed and that was dismissed. Agenda item 11, an application at 6 Gedling Road to construct a new bungalow. We refused it and the appeal was allowed, which is very unusual. We don't often lose an appeal. Agenda item 12 is the 5-year housing land supply assessment. This is a very important document. I can't underline any more definitely the importance of that. And there's a huge amount of work gone into it by planning policy, legal, and lots of other departments within the council. And as you know from the Gedling plan, we've got 7,250 houses to build in the planned period. And this basically tells you we've built 2,320 have already been built. This tells you where and when the other 4,930 are going to be built before 2028. And this is really important information. And I would suggest to everybody that, you know, when you're finished with these agendas, that you remove the pages relevant to agenda item 12, keep them for future reference. Agenda item 13 is future planning applications on page 275. Agenda item 14, planning delegation panel action sheets. 19th of February, page 277, 26th of February, page 279, 5th of March, page 281, 12th of March, page 283, and 19th of March, page 285. And that is all that there is left, except agenda item 14, which is just to say that actually, it's agenda item 15, isn't it? Any other items the chair considers urgent? I don't have any, so I thank you all for attending the meeting and wish you a very happy Easter bank holiday weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night,
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.